Hello, YouTube, and welcome to Buffer Time, where me and my fellow crewmates, who are about as bruised and battered at this point as the crew of the USS Titan, get together every week to discuss whatever new is going on with Trek. This week, we are talking about Season 3, Episode 5 of Picard, entitled Imposters. Let's go around and introduce ourselves to start. I am Scott of the YouTube channel Opinions No One Cares About.
Hi, I'm Del, and I believe all drag is valid, especially changeling drag.
Hey, I'm Lieutenant Commander Eve Zellick with the USS Lilith, and this is Pumpkin Spice the Tribble.
Nice.
I'm Dustin from Best of Trek, Worst of COVID.
Yeah, that is unfortunate.
I am here.
That's like a great hashtag.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. All right, let's start off with a question that I'm sure is first and foremost on everyone's minds. Why is the lighting so drastically better in this episode, even when at red alert? Yeah, exactly. I mean, look at Campbell. You can actually see what's going on.
It's like the first week.
There's this weird thing that happens sometimes where fans will complain about, and this happens on other shows too, where fans will complain about a thing, and then it will get better, but there's no way they heard you because they shot this a year ago.
Right?
Yeah.
So I'm thinking maybe they heard themselves looking at some of the dailies and we're like, okay, this is kind of ridiculous. We're no longer in the nebula. Maybe we could light the bridge.
Which is weird because the nebula was like brighter than what was going on in the ship. So you'd think they'd
Right.
get some ambient light from that. Oh, yeah, they don't really have windows, though, do they?
No, they did because they had to check them for the Shrike.
Oh, right. Yeah. But then on the bridge, though, I mean, they just have the view screen. So
Right.
you get that dark submarine look.
I have a weird conspiracy.
Uh-oh.
We're all about it.
I love using Dell's word. Conspiracy thought. In Discovery, it was shown that mirrorverse people need lower lighting because they have trouble seeing.
Ooh.
Could there be mirrorverse people, or could this have something to do with the mirrorverse? Because that was made a big deal of because Giorgio had it and Lorca had it. All the mirrorverse characters needed darker rooms. So I have to wonder if maybe that's in there somewhere. Maybe we're going to get a mirrorverse connection because the thing is, Picard never did a mirrorverse episode. And I actually saw a meme this week where Q was talking to him and he's like, you're going to have to do the one thing you've never done. And Picard's like, a mirrorverse episode?
Nice. I'd buy it. Robbie, I'm going to put your feet to the fire in this one. We're talking about the lighting. Why is it so much better this episode?
You're muted, Robbie.
Muted.
Bro, you're muted.
He really believes in what he's saying.
Yeah. I'm sure this is really insightful, too.
Robbie.
Oh, dude.
I feel like Dave
Not on
Hogan
mute.
must have.
Bro, you're on mute.
Robbie, mute.
Oh, dude, somebody's got to tell him.
He's
There he is.
There he is.
No, thank you. I appreciate it. It's okay. It usually doesn't do that when I come in. Thank you for putting the spotlight on me. I don't know. We're just a few episodes in. I guess I guess we're getting our lighting, together a little bit better. I heard you talking about mirrorverse stuff, and that's also a good point. Maybe this has been a thematic need throughout the season, no matter how frustrating it may be for some people.
Yeah, just a little bit.
I love Section 31 in the Mirrorverse, so.
Right. Why not?
I will get back to the mirror.
I live in the dark, so it's fine by me.
Right.
I have another conspiracy about the mirror universe.
Ooh.
What the heck? We're here. Why not?
Yeah,
Oh,
the
you want me to?
Yeah.
Sure.
Does it involve mirrors?
No, it involves a giant red door.
Oh.
That
Okay.
shows
Yeah,
up
I mean-
in all of. It shows up in all of Jacksident's visions
It does.
when he's having whatever wonkiness he's having. And the world, like the way that they shoot it, looks different. I don't know how to better explain that, but like the lighting and the way the DOP is pulling is different during those scenes.
Mhm.
And so I kept getting this sense of like, this is a doorway to somewhere else, capital S, capital E. And so I had a couple of ideas, but one of them was the mirror universe. So
that could work too,
Yeah,
because
why not?
Beverly mentions Jack not sleeping and Jack having nightmares. And one has to wonder if maybe the nightmares have something to do with the Mirrorverse. And the thing is, we didn't see Lorca sleep very much because Lorca was up a lot. And
Very
so
true.
is Giorgio. So again, I have to wonder if they're going to tie Mirrorverse, because it would make sense at this point. I mean, we never had Section 31 in TNG, and now we're getting Section 31. So I have to wonder if they're pulling in the Mirrorverse, because we've had Mirrorverse in every iteration pretty much except Voyager, because it wouldn't make sense there.
Yeah.
Plus, I like conspiracies.
Right.
someday.
I definitely think that there's another dimension involved here. I don't think this Jack is from the Prime universe. Whether it's the mirror universe or not, I'm not sure.
Right.
But yeah.
He's
I
a
think
Jackson.
I think
in
he's a
many ways.
changeling from another universe.
He's a Jackson.
I got to admit, what I immediately started thinking was, something's up with Jack. Something's up with Jack.
One of these guys is not like the other one.
Yes.
So how does
You
his
are
red
right,
eyes?
Dustin.
Oh, go ahead.
I just wanted to say Dustin was very right. He does have Skeleton King energy. Just he always acts like he's above everyone. He can take down people easily. I'm sure Jack the Skeleton can kick ass. You know, he doesn't have any feelings really across his body, so I'm sure he can kick ass if he wants.
See,
Yeah,
in every show I've seen this actor, because I've seen him in several shows now,
Mhm.
he's always like some kind of bad guy, asshole. Sorry, I shouldn't use that word, but he's always some kind of like major dickhead.
Yeah.
He is an
Whether it's a psychopathic murderer or a British Army captain who thinks that he has a right to take any woman he wants, or, you know, all these different characters. He never plays a good guy, so I can't see him being a good guy no matter what.
Fair enough. But circling back to that picture Dustin just had up. So the door, like Jack was clearly having another vision, but the door looked different than the last visions. And it's like right after his eyes glue red and his power or whatever it is manifested. What does that mean? If it's gone from like just being in his head to him having like a live vision? Oh, nice.
I don't know, because the walls had that weird vine look thing coming at the same time. So I kind of have to wonder, like, are we seeing what's in his head, or are we seeing something else? Like, is this happening in his head?
Oh, I know where it's happening. It's happening in the Matrix because he's become Neo.
Oh, of course. He knows.
Neo's a good guy. Jack is definitely not a good guy so far.
I don't know that we know that or not. I'm not sure.
Maybe
he's living pretty rent-free in the gray area, I'd say.
Yeah.
If
he's Mirrorverse, doubtful he's good.
Yeah, right.
Let me ask you: do you think Jack is a bad guy that you want to be a good guy, though? Anybody?
No.
Well,
I don't care.
No, because Beverly Crusher's an awful parent, so it serves her right.
I only want him to be a good guy now in that Picard needs somebody to pass on his stuff to when he dies. It's going to be Elnor who threw that character
Dustin,
away.
he's already passed on his stuff. That's how he got Jacksident.
Oh.
Oh, indeed.
I always forget this.
I had to.
Do you want to hear my conspiracy about Beverly and Jack?
Always.
Does this have to do with the closed captioning thing?
Yes. Do you want to wait to that for that?
No, go nuts. I
Okay.
have that same question.
So when I take notes, I listen with this. I watch with the CC on anyway, but when I take notes, I especially do. And it did recognize the voice in Jack's visions as Beverly's.
Yep.
And it makes me think that Beverly knows. Like I just wrote down Beverly knows. Like whatever it is that's going on with Jack, she knows. Maybe she's discussed it with him before. Maybe she hasn't. But like, I think she knows. Also, because she did things like she told him, "You killed changelings," and Jack looks at her and says, "Did I?" And then she says, like, "Yeah, and they were all dead." And like, how does she know that?
Well,
Well,
she
they
did,
are aligned there in sick bay, and once you actually damage them, they show like damaged changeling cells.
and she did say, she's like, 4 of them all changelings, like incredible odds. How did you know? And he's like, I didn't. But the thing is, when Jack was shooting him, he wasn't exactly Jack.
Yeah.
Right.
Like you could tell there was a complete mental disassociation there.
Yep. His eyes
Which
flashed. And he's
why-
just like, "Oh boy, here I go killing again."
Mhm.
Said his eyes flashed, and he's just like, "Oh boy, here I go killing again."
Well, the thing is, that's where my question came from: is he maybe a Manchurian candidate?
Yeah.
Because
And
that
is it like, does it like only activate around changelings? Because he never seems to have this thing around anybody else.
Unless he's like the changeling hunter TM.
Okay.
yeah,
Yeah,
I
or
actually
is this
thought
going back to
Manchurian
the
candidate.
Big prediction.
going back to
Oh.
You two are against each other all the
Robbie?
time. Go on, Robbie.
Always, Robbie, go first.
Go, Robbie.
Okay, thank you. Okay, big prediction. Jack is going to end up killing his mom in one of these freakouts, and then he's going to come out of the freakout and be like, "Mom!" Well, yeah. So just watch. Just be on the lookout. It's going to lead to
He's
that
gonna show up and
probably.
be like, "I've been waiting for this."
If we wanted to stray into the realm of bizarre, then going off of Robbie's thought, Oedipus complex.
Oh boy.
Oh yeah, they could totally bring that in. Jim Morrison that held us up, you know.
My mind goes in weird places. I'm sorry.
Not a problem. But you know what? Let's shift just a little bit because this episode brought back Raffi and Worf, and they got a whole thing to do. You think like their opening fight scene strengthened their comparison to the Ninja Turtles? Who asked this question?
Oh,
I get it, Rafaela, but I actually loved that fight between them when they're talking about each other's weaknesses, and then Raffi just goes at Worf and he's just standing there like, "Stop it. Just stop it."
Yeah,
See,
I
to
thought it
me,
was
it
funny that
reminded-
we had this conversation a couple weeks ago about who is Worf, which Ninja Turtle is he, and then you get this as the first scene.
Oh, he's Leonardo.
It's very, very TMNT.
I'm
Yeah.
very much going back to he's Splinter.
Yeah,
I actually did think that too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
See,
feel that a whole lot.
To me, it's Mr.
Good.
Miyagi and Daniel.
Oh.
Mr. Miyagi and Daniel, because you look at, and I like with Raffi too, I get a feeling of more younger Worf, because when Worf was younger and he would fight other Klingons or train with them, they were often telling him the same things he's telling Raffi.
Yeah. It's true.
Like about being impulsive and not thinking and stuff. And to me, I'm sitting there going, oh, it's Miyagi and Daniel. The same thing, the impulsive hothead and the wise, seasoned mentor. Oh, where'd Robbie go?
And there he goes.
He's in the Mirrorverse now.
Yeah. And thankfully, she actually, listened to him when they went back to. That's still everything going on in Metalis Prime, right? Yeah, of course it is, because what's his face talking about? Yeah. So they go back to Metalis Prime and they meet apparently an evil Vulcan, a literally evil Vulcan.
He doesn't look fully Vulcan. He looks like the bastard of a Riemann and a Vulcan with the ears and the head. He doesn't look quite right.
Yeah. But then he's wearing like the thing. He's talking about how that thing he said, like, do you guys really think crime, like it's logical to have crime in a utopia?
Yes.
Yes. I was like, that is a massive reason to be a villain. Like, pure logic at that point. You cannot have a utopia without crime, and history has proven that each and every time we've even moderately come close.
It makes sense, too, because it also ties with why you need Section 31. You need someone to have their hands dirty so everyone else can have paradise.
Did anyone else ever watch the HBO show Oz?
Yes.
I recognized this dude immediately. I'm like, that's Kirk Azevedo. I haven't seen him in forever. That's Alvarez.
The black screen?
Yeah, that's...
He's there somewhere.
That's it.
He's there somewhere.
He's in there.
He didn't fix the lighting everywhere, just on the Titan.
Yeah.
I finally have a really good reason to go into Oz now. Like, I know there's a lot of people involved in that thing who are amazing, but I want to see more of this guy performing, because this was such a highlight of the episode for me, the confidence he displayed and the way he would spit words out of them.
What bothers me about Kryn is Vulcan's gambling. Like he's very obsessed with wagering and gambling, and that is not a Vulcan thing because Spock and all the other Vulcans never even cared to speculate because speculation was taking a gamble. It wasn't logical. So him and his gambling thing is a little bit weird.
Well, I think he's off in general. Like I don't think he's going to the Vulcan Science Academy anytime soon.
Oh no.
Like I think he is painted to be what if a Vulcan were to be a crime lord. And I think in the same way that sometimes undercover cops have to do drugs, I think in some ways he doesn't care about what he wins or loses. He cares about the stakes. He doesn't care if he wins $1 million Latinum or if he goes home broke. He wants things to have stakes.
Okay.
That was my thought.
That could make sense. And we've seen what happens when Vulcans are not like totally logical. I mean, Tuvok is a Vulcan with serious anger problems.
Mm-hmm. Cybok.
Yeah.
Cybok rejecting logic and going to find God.
I have to admit, Sarek could be on our list of bad parents for that.
I have long considered Sarek to not be the best parent.
Yeah.
No.
He needed human women to raise his children. That says something about Vulcan superiority.
Including his child, the human woman.
Yeah.
And then, like, the one child he has who's like a full Vulcan rejected logic.
Yeah.
I bet Sarek is one of the only people in Vulcan society to have ever experienced, like, lust for a human woman in that way. Like, we don't have to explore this too much, but I think he's one of the only people that, like, gave in to his lust for somebody in a way that other Vulcans hadn't. When I think about, like, how
if
like,
we keep having this conversation, though, I'm going to have to go change into a cat suit.
No, I just think it's like funny. I just think it's a funny thing. Like,
I do too.
It seems unhinged to me. Like the guy seems like off the beaten path.
I will say one thing.
Kind of his thing.
I will say one thing for a Vulcan who pursues humans. Those human women must have been okay with once every 7 years because man, that would suck.
Yeah, they
that's a feature.
I like Amanda, but she's pretty stuffy. Let's be honest.
I just said something really dirty. I'm glad you guys talked over me.
I won't make the bad joke I was just going to make off what Dustin said.
Oh.
Anyway, so Raffi has a mobile emitter, I heard.
Thank you. I was trying to get back to that. Yeah, I forget who asked the question, but yeah, does that violate the temporal prime directive?
I asked that.
I don't think so because they brought back the Doctor's mobile emitter on Voyager, so you have to think that they would have studied that.
But doesn't mean they would make it available so a random person can go have one.
Section 31.
Or in this case, Starfleet Intelligence.
Which section is part? They've already implied there's Section 31 involvement. In Section 31, the ends justify the means. So
Yeah,
they
I'm
wouldn't
honestly
care.
surprised we haven't seen it before now. I mean, once they get it back to Starfleet, there's no way they're not going to reverse engineer it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
With the, they've got the rooms and the people to do it.
Well, yeah,
There's no
especially
way.
if they wanted to deploy EMHs like they did with like if they wanted to deploy EMHs after seeing how Voyagers managed to work, it would make sense.
It sets an incredibly bad precedent.
It does, but at the same time, if you've got a hologram who fills an essential role on a ship, it makes sense that you would want them to be able to move around the ship.
I'm not saying it's not a useful thing.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that Starfleet wouldn't want one. I would like some clarification from Starfleet in general. Like, what is the temporal prime directive and when does it? It's the same thing with the regular prime directive, but the temporal one I find even like it applies when the writers thinks it applies.
Conspiracy prediction.
All right.
The mobile emitter is going to show up again and have to do with Moriarty.
That's why I think they brought it in.
Almost certainly.
That's why I think they brought it in this early, is because they want to set us up for the fact that Moriarty's going to need something to be able to walk around.
Yeah.
Right.
Are they going to figure out a different place to put it, though? It was like on the Raffi hologram is like exactly the same spot as on the Doctor, and I think that's why Kryn recognized it, which is weird enough that he knows what a mobile emitter is.
Yeah.
But if you're
I
a
could see
crime lord-
lord probably having one.
And a crime
Probably
lord
got it off the black market.
Oh, yeah.
Well, yeah, he's got the black market thing to get into Daystrom because he said he bought it. He didn't make it. He bought it.
Brokered it.
If you're a crime lord, you're going to always have information that you shouldn't have because that's how you survive.
Right. Like the illogical AI he apparently stole from Daystrom. What is that? Is it
Moriarty.
Or
I'm
is
going
it
with Moriarty.
Or is it? At this, yeah, they keep teasing Moriarty, so.
Yeah, they
I'm
show
not
this
surprised.
quick flash of like a booth though, so I'm assuming it's lore because I can't imagine that you'd keep Moriarty in a booth. I don't know.
But lore isn't
Nobody
totally.
puts Moriarty in a
Lore isn't
booth.
just an AI. I mean, it was made clear in Measure of a Man that that androids like Data, for instance, are actually basically human. They established that in Measure of a Man, so that's why I question that because lore is essentially Data with emotions.
And evil!
Yes.
But I'd
you
consider
broke
him
me.
more illogical.
The
than
Dirty Dancing reference?
Moriarty.
Yes, you broke
Yeah.
me. I'm just done.
We broke Dell.
I'm broken.
I do try.
I will be replaced by a small penguin.
Good, because the Tribble can only cover Dustin.
Gambling.
All right.
Maybe I should have put these in some kind of order.
Yeah, we got way more questions than we got order. That's for sure.
Yeah. But okay, so we're on Rafi and Worf. So we found out who Worf's handler is. How happy are we about the return of Rolaren?
That was a surprise.
Total surprise, yeah. Yeah, you guys mentioned she looks less like a Bajoran. Like Picard pointed out she's not wearing her earring. Like I saw a full shot of her. I was like, I recognized who it was, but yeah, her nose ridges are like way less visible.
I also want to mention, because I'm that kind of person, the haircut she's wearing in Picard is called a blunt cut.
It's like longer hair and shorter.
When it's angled straight, but like angled toward the front,
Yeah.
it's called a blunt cut, which I just found kind of funny, ironic.
She's always
for the
had like
episode.
fairly blunt hair. Like she's always
Yes.
had fairly
Yeah.
like strict
I
hair.
looked back though, but before it was softened, it didn't have the sharp angle because she
Right.
looked different. I wanted to go look and see if her nose ridges were more pronounced, or if the earring was the same, which
Yeah.
it is not.
And yeah, that cut actually kind of calls attention to the fact that she's not wearing her earring because that ear is exposed.
And
Yeah,
the
but she
earring that
always-
she gives Picard later is not the same one that she used to wear.
Yeah, because it's smaller. Because the one she used to wear was much bigger.
It was
Yep.
very ornate. That was the whole point.
But then again, she always had that one ear exposed anyway in TNG to show the earring because the earring was such a big deal.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I did. Her nose ridges. You're right. I was like, something's off about her face, and it's not just the actress has gotten older because
Yeah.
she's aged very well, like Jerry Ryan has.
Mhm.
Versus, no offense, Beverly and Deanna, who have not.
I was going to say it.
I'm sorry, but those two are almost unrecognizable now. But she was missing the nose ridges. Like that part was kind of what threw me off about her because I'm
It
like,
looks like they drew them on instead of giving her a latex
Like that.
application. And
Yeah.
I
Yeah, it
made
kinda
this
does.
note, but I didn't put it in our notes because I was being catty. That maybe Michelle Forbes was like, I will come back, but none of this shit and none of this shit. And I want to wear all black and look awesome. And I want a new haircut. And I only want to be in one episode.
That sounds like a Michelle Forbes thing to do.
Exactly. So that's why I wrote it down. Was maybe Michelle
She
Forbes
had
was
the
just being
first
diva.
officer's chair rolled out for her twice
yeah,
and
True.
gave it up. And also, she could have a movie career that never went more than a B or C list movie.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
It's
Yeah.
the gambles you got to take.
I have to wonder though if maybe in some Bajorans, and this is just me being nitpicky, maybe in some Bajorans the nose ridges sometimes soften too. I mean, we've seen Klingons as they get older, their ridges sometimes get a little less pronounced. Things like even older Cardassians, the few older ones we've seen, their spoon head is a little less pronounced. So I have to wonder if maybe it's a way of showing age too, like because this is way later. She's not like a 20-something, Bajoran ex-freedom fighter. She's now like somebody who's seen and done too much kind of thing is the sense I got from her is that she saw too much with the Maquis.
Mm-hmm. I know he said something about that too. Oh yeah.
I also wrote down in my catty notes that maybe Bajoran women just get more self-conscious and so she had her nose ridges done.
Yeah, maybe.
Like I said, I was being catty.
Right. Okay, so why did Ro tap Worf for this assignment in particular? And if she's his contact, why did she deny him access to Daystrom?
That part I want to know.
Maybe like that.
That made no sense.
The only thing I could that was my question, and the only answer I've been able to even bubble around is maybe there are changelings on the inside of Daystrom Institute, and so therefore it's dangerous to go there, or it will alert Starfleet to the fact that of the investigation. Those were the two ideas I had. Yeah, you're sort of pointing toward me. That's
there you go.
Yeah, that would actually make sense because she did say that it goes all the way up, and when we see her investigation, it goes all the way up to the top of Starfleet. It's a complete, this conspiracy is it's even bigger than the bugs in heads conspiracy.
Although
and there might still be a few of them.
I'm not convinced that you're wrong yet.
I know.
Yeah,
I haven't
I think
ruled
it's
out.
still possible.
I haven't ruled out the bugs in heads yet.
Because keep bringing up the word conspiracy over and over again too.
Because that was
it's
and that's
very
a plot
similar.
I mean, Picard, I get the sense that we're tying up a lot of loose ends. That's the point of the show. Let's get rid of Q. Let's do this. Let's, it seems to be a lot of tying up all these loose ends that were never tied up.
Right.
The focus on the Borg initially, that kind of thing. So it would make sense that one episode, because I think out of all the Next Generation episodes, that's one of the ones that's most talked about is what happens, because we know a signal was sent after the and then there was this one of you guys put one week, I think it was Dustin, there was the meat explosion right after, and then we never hear of it again. And I know somebody once said that it could have been the seed of the Borg, but that makes no sense because the Borg were already established by Next Generation, and the Borg are not like insectoids. But the other reason I think still the bugs could be and this is, I know, another question on here, the chittering sound we're always hearing.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
That was just it.
That was
this
new.
week.
Because we've seen two changelings talk to each other.
Mm-hmm.
And even when they're not in front of other solids, and they still seem to use common. But now they chitter to each other and know exactly what they mean.
Yeah, seems to be a new
Conspiracy. Bug changeling hybrids.
Yep.
Oh boy.
Yep.
Scott, are you okay?
How does that even work? My goodness.
Because it's Star Trek, they've had all sorts of hybrids.
It's Star Trek. That's how it works.
We get ourselves one of those 40 era Fleischer Superman villains in here to create a little bug, changeling hybrids. It'll be fun. I'm looking forward to them unveiling that now.
Maybe
it turned out it was the villain from Captain Proton, whose name I can't remember.
Chaotica.
Yes.
Oh man. It would make no sense, but I would welcome it, to be perfectly honest with them.
I'd be all about it being about Chaotica, all right? Maybe it would make the show so much better.
Okay, deep rabbit hole.
Okay.
One of Dr. Soong's unethical experiments, because we know he experimented heavily with genetics, but he's Mirrorverse Soong.
Oh no.
Scott.
I like that idea.
I knew you would, Del. That's a very good rabbit hole.
It is. While we're talking about rabbit holes for just 1 second, did anyone else notice this, or am I crazy? I went back and looked and I still didn't have a good answer. So the question is, well, let me set it up. So in the first scene, when we see Jack in the vision, it looks like he's wearing pips.
Right.
Then in the next scene that we see him in the command uniform, he has no pips. And then during the fight scene when he becomes Neo, it sure looks like he has an ensign's pip.
Yeah, I
Yeah, 'cause
noticed
he
that
does.
too.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm not just crazy because I noticed that too. I'm like, why does his pips keep changing?
Yes.
Which
Yeah.
goes back to the, like, this is going to, I think he's Jack from a different universe, and not just that, he's sliding between universes. I got
Oh,
this thought
no.
as I was watching, I'm like, this seems disjointed. Like, it's Jack, it's the same character that we're seeing, but we're seeing a different universe every time we see him, and I don't think he knows he's shifting.
Oh, wow.
I like that idea.
I don't know.
I enjoyed
I
that
don't know the
episode, so yeah.
why yet, but I think that's the case.
Yeah. It's just the perils of being one of Beverly Crusher's kids. One travels through time, the other travels through realities.
I just wanted to bring that up while we were talking about conspiracy theories, because I didn't know if I should turn on that part of my brain or if I was just misseeing things.
Right.
Well, and then as you just bring up Wesley Scott, for all we know, Wesley's the reason he's jumping between
Oh, goodness, yeah,
different
maybe.
periods. We don't know. It could be the
Crush your
Trekies.
DNA.
Which I hope so, because otherwise that whole thing last season with Wesley Crusher and not Soji there
Not so deep.
is just completely worthless.
Yeah, 'cause there
Can we
has
call it Gene Roddenberry therapy?
there has to have been a point to bringing back Wesley for more than just that, because quite frankly, it's not like anybody really wanted to see Wesley.
Yeah.
Like after seeing
Not
that
gonna
episode, I was on the forums and the fan boards, and everyone's like, "Why the heck did they bring him back? No one wanted to see him again."
Right.
I did. I just want it to go somewhere.
Yeah.
Yeah, he can go somewhere to the other side of the galaxy.
Well,
You're going to get spammed from so many Star Trek forums if you keep this up.
If they haven't been considering it by now.
We're the bad kids of Star Trek commentary.
One of these things, Mel and I could start a YouTube just on all the rabbit holes we could dig in Star Trek.
Dustin has been bugging me. He thinks I need to come up with a Trek conspiracy channel.
Oh, I'd be so down
Yeah.
for that.
I think you
I'm
do.
in.
I think it would be funny.
I'm usually on the outskirts of every fan group for being the conspiracy theorist.
All right, let's pull a Jack and shift back to the universe where we were talking about Roe, because there's a lot there.
Yeah.
Like how she shows up in like immediate. Where is it? She makes it clear that Picard and Riker are already guilty. Like they're set for court martial, and that's a whole thing with Shaw that we need to put aside for a second because we need to focus.
Yeah.
So I mean, does that sound like the Starfleet we've come to know and love, or is it just proof that Starfleet's compromised?
We've seen with court martials before them walking in and acting like the person's already guilty. Kirk had a court martial.
Yep.
Who else has had court martials? I'm trying to
Picard
think.
was on trial in the Drumhead, but I don't think that's the same. Not quite
Yeah.
the same. Although Sati was out for blood.
And I mean, there's a few times Archer should have been court-martialed, but
Yep.
and I think the only reason Janeway escaped any is because extraordinary circumstances. But there,
It made me. I wrote the question. It made me think of Measure of a Man,
yeah,
Okay.
and that's when I was like, I don't see the Starfleet that supported that decision would support this decision. It just seems weird to me. I don't know.
Okay. Okay, so how about everything between Picard and Roe? Because there's just so much there. Like, does he really think that empathy is less important than following orders?
yes. Picard's
Apparently.
always had a stick up his butt about Starfleet.
Yeah.
I mean, he even said to Jack before, when he didn't know who Jack was, that all he ever needed was Starfleet. I mean, this guy is like, he reminds me of some of those old veterans you meet where they're just like, there's no life outside my platoon. And I will live and die for the forces, like those kind of people.
Right.
I mean, he's almost so he's obsessed with Starfleet in such a way that Worf used to be obsessed with his honor. That's what it reminds me of.
Yeah.
Worf's gotten softer about his honor in his age. Picard's almost doubled down.
I don't really get it. I'll be real honest.
Okay.
even when he was given orders, when the Maquis were first popping up, like to remove the Native American colony, stuff like that, like he was ready to go against Starfleet. But I don't understand why he is so against Ro doing her own thing that was doing what was right. Picard has done what is right most of his career, even when it flew in Starfleet's face sometimes.
You divide orders in First Contact.
Yep.
A whole bunch of times. I don't get where this animosity comes from. And more than that, this whole plot takes my favorite book here, the first book in the Dominion War series, and it just throws it right out the window.
To be fair, the
story
books have always
about
been
how
considered beta.
I know. Though this one, it was a whole series that ties in the Dominion War, and the next book is actually the Dominion taking DS9, but it's longer form and more from the perspective of Weyoun and Dukat, and you get way more there. But anyway, the book, this first one was about Picard and Ro, and right after the Maquis collapse, and then that redeems her, and then they're good. And then this happens, it's like, wow, they are not good. And Picard's animosity, I just don't understand, is what I'm saying.
Right.
Well,
Also, it's too bad when you threw your book, we couldn't throw in a window smashing sound. That would have been awesome.
Yeah. Picard too, though, he considered the Maquis as traitors.
Yeah.
So that could be part of it too, because he always made it clear he considered the Maquis traitors. No matter which side they were on, they were all traitors as far as he was concerned, because they weren't just doing what they should do to make life easier for everybody type idea.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Miles O'Brien had a more nuanced sense of Dominion War, or sorry, not the Cardassian War. He had a more nuanced sense of the Cardassian War, and that guy had bloody PTSD from it.
Oh my gosh, yeah. Poor O'Brien.
Sorry, I feel really bad about laughing at that. I just like there's some framing in those Miles O'Brien scenes. They look awful, and that's all I think about whenever I hear about any of that stuff. Please continue.
I have a theory about the entire conversation.
Okay.
I believe that Ro is yet another example of someone that Picard mentored, raised, and made decisions that he didn't approve of. And he doesn't understand that there's this place in parenthood where you have to let go. And I think with Ro, I mean, we've seen him interact with Riker in a parental way. We've seen him interact with other characters. But I think in this particular one, it was, I thought I taught you right. Why did you make different decisions? And she was like, because they were the right decisions for me.
Right.
That's definitely a parent-child thing too. You're right. Because how many parents, and I know there's parents in this room, so I'm going to try and tread softly, but how many parents really do see their children as a reflection on them regardless? You know,
A lot
instead of seeing their children as individuals that are eventually going to have their own personality, their own needs, their own sense of justice, whether it's good or bad or whatever. You know, how many parents are like that and see it as like almost like a personal thing, like, how dare my child choose different than I taught them? Rawr.
Oh,
and I just think that they're going to keep bringing back characters that will illustrate that Picard had children. He just didn't realize it at the time, and that he's not a good parent, and maybe he's not a good parent for Jack. I would love that to be the end of the Jack plot line, because I don't want it to be Bev and Picard get back together and Jack's a happy son and goes off to college. Like, I don't want to see that. I want to see them completely destroy each other.
He was pushing him to join Starfleet in this episode, and I'm like,
exactly. He's not going to do that.
I'm like, how blind can you be? Like, he's made it quite clear he doesn't want anything to do with your Starfleet. Would you shut up? Mm-hmm. It reminds me so much of the parents sitting there going, and I've dealt with this with parents because I see it as a teacher. It makes me think of the parents who sit there and their poor kid wants to go into art school and has a passion for it. And the parents going, no, you're going into business or you're going into engineering because that's what I want you to do, because that's the safe and proper choice. I don't care what you want. Like, that's what it reminds me of. He's way too pushy on that.
Okay, thankfully I'm not there.
I think the only
Poor Scott, I'm sorry.
No, it's fine. Go on, Robbie.
I think the only like possible outcome to this can be chaos. Like I think Picard is going to have to lose whatever he's trying to get out of this relationship with Jack. The season is way too dark for it to have like some happy outcome. Like that probably feels saccharine after we've been dealing with all these conspiracies and all this darkness that's going on. This season's probably going to end on down note because that's the only way it's pointing.
I honestly wouldn't be surprised at this point if some accident takes out Riker.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. And then Picard would realize, that Riker was his son. Yeah, okay. That would work as well.
I hadn't even thought about it like that.
Not even just because Riker's his son, but him and Riker have all until Riker went off to the Titan and everything, him and Riker were always like the A team. I mean, Riker gave up promotions to stay on the flagship. Picard even mentioned that. And I mean, how many, there was that time during Best of Both Worlds where what's-his-face told Riker, are you giving up another promotion again? Those two were always kind of the dynamic duo. So to take away Picard's one most trusted pillar, I actually like that idea. Man, I'm sick in the head. Torture Picard some more.
There are 6 lights.
I love all the memes lately about Picard being the expert on lights.
Right.
It reminds me when I worked at the old music school I was at before COVID. We had 4 lights above the bathroom mirrors, and one was always burnt out. And then the one day they actually had all 4 working. I threw open the door and I'm like, "There's 4 lights!" And 3 of the sales guys burst out laughing. And the boss is like, "What are you talking about?" And they look at him and they're like, "Watch some Star Trek, man."
Nice.
I've played those games with people before.
Okay, so I suppose I should get us back on track, whatever the track is.
We hate Picard.
Ro, because there's still a lot more that Ro does in this episode. She's telling Picard how compromised Starfleet is, and how, for some reason, she transported most of the Titan crew to the Intrepid, even though she thinks the ship is compromised. Why doesn't she like transporters?
Yeah, why does she transport the entire crew but she doesn't take them herself?
That part got me because at first when Jason made a big deal about her wanting to go by shuttle, I'm like, well, we had that with McCoy and TNG because McCoy always hated the transporter. Yes, never trusted. Even Pulaski demanded a shuttle because she didn't trust the transporter. And now Rose saying she doesn't trust the transport, but then she transports them over because at first I thought, okay, she doesn't trust the transporter because maybe there have been, people like her who've been just beamed out into space. But then why would she risk all those crew members?
Very true.
It doesn't. Yeah, it didn't make any sense to me whatsoever.
It's 1 + 1 = 3. It's not working.
Yeah.
Well, you know why they had to not have her transport over? Yeah. Because they needed her in a shuttle for the ending to happen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But they could have written that better because otherwise it doesn't make sense.
They could have written.
Yeah, I was kind of thinking
better.
The explosion was magnificent, though. God.
Yeah. I was kind of thinking of why'd you hit the nacelle? Aim for the bridge if you think the ship's compromised.
Because the nacelle slows it down considerably because the power for almost everything comes from there. So you're taking out half of the ship's power right there. Whereas the bridge, you have to figure because they've had bridges rammed before. Mm-hmm. I mean, it happened to the Enterprise. So you have to think that they probably would have reinforced them by now.
They just need to destroy the deflector dish. A ship can't do anything without a deflector dish.
Which one?
I know.
There's 2 on that ship.
I know.
That's another thing. It's the USS Intrepid. Why is it not an Intrepid class ship?
Oh, yeah. Well, all right. Here's another rabbit hole before everybody gets talking about what we're actually talking about. So this is the USS Intrepid.
Yes.
We're waiting for Voyager A to pop up in Prodigy next season.
Yep.
Is this going to be the same class as Voyager A?
I hope not. I did not like the design of the ship.
I think it's more like lazy writing and just like how the Titan refit looks nothing like a Titan.
Yeah.
I think it's just lazy writing at this point.
This ship design kind of reminded me of something I'd seen on Twitter where somebody used like an AI app to design a spaceship, and you have like engines pointing in different directions and stuff. And it was like, okay.
I was just looking at it, and if you do any amount of 3D modeling, you realize it looks like they just took the Titan model and then somebody just did some trimming and sucked some stuff in, and that's your new ship. We just cut most of the drive section away and sucked some stuff in. It's just a less chunky saucer.
Hey, that's what I was you guys.
Tuesday afternoon.
It's not a fat one.
Yeah. It does kind of seem like every ship is slowly morphing into some form of Constitution class.
Well, Voyager always reminded me of a spoon. It's more elongated. It's more.
Yeah.
I think the Protostar looks like a spork.
Yes.
Because it comes to like a point, but it's round. But I don't know.
See that.
It's not a spoon. It's not a fork.
I have a Ro-related question.
Yes, please.
So at the end of their conversation, we flash back to Worf and Raffi and Kryn. And one of the things that Kryn says, like really pointedly, in our world, loyalty is what passes for family. And I wanted to know if you thought that was to compare and contrast with Ro and Picard's conversation, where they're talking about broken loyalty and how that plays into family. And then Kryn comes back and says, even among thieves, we know that loyalty is family.
Right.
I don't know. They just seemed like they were mushed together. And so it didn't feel very coincidental.
For me, I looked at this from a weird perspective because I'm a law enforcement kid. I mean, my dad was in law enforcement. My best friend is the son of 2 cops. So I looked at this strictly from the law enforcement and criminal perspective. And that is true. There is honor among thieves. And in the criminal world, loyalty is currency. And it is like the hardest currency. And the worst thing you can do in the criminal world is betray. Because the second you betray, nobody's going to do business with you. Nobody. It's why you'll get people like they'll round up a bunch of gang members and none of them will talk. Oh, I wasn't there. Oh, I don't know what happened. Oh, well, it was somebody, and they won't talk. Even if they're caught red-handed with the knife in hand, they will not talk.
Right.
Because loyalty is, everything, because it's the only thing that keeps you alive. So for
That's
them,
why the mob has lasted so damn long for hundreds of years, technically.
Or Hell's Angels. It's why Hell's Angels continues to exist in the way they do, because loyalty to Hell's Angels is a life or death matter. Loyalty in most criminal enterprises is life or death. The second you break that loyalty, somebody's coming after you. And that person's going to be rewarded for their loyalty in removing the problem.
Does love ever make you break your loyalty to a person?
Depends how you define love, I guess.
Yeah.
Love is harder to define than loyalty.
Well, we're talking about family, but that can be complicated for some people. But it was one of those things. It wasn't necessarily a conspiracy, but it was one of those things that made me spiral for like half an hour. So I wanted to bring it up.
Were you circling the drain?
No, I was going down the rabbit hole the Screwed way.
So with this photo that I've got up, did anybody else notice the fact that when Ro cuts herself, the whole point of cutting yourself is you let the blood drop?
Yes.
So that the other person can see that it's blood, and we didn't even see that. She's just like, oh, I'm going to cut myself, and I can still be a changeling. Here you go.
I don't think she knew, though, because Picard didn't know, and even Beverly did. Like nobody on the Titan knew that the changelings had evolved. So I don't think even Ro did, to be honest.
But the thing was back in
DS9.
Do the thing.
Yeah, she didn't even do the thing that would have proved her, regardless of the new changeling stuff or not. She didn't do it the way that we've seen it. She just cut herself, which does nothing. It proves 0.
Right.
I think she was more annoyed at that point. Like I got the sense she was just annoyed and being like, okay, let's get this the heck over with so that way we can move on.
I think it was another way for the showrunners to hint that she might be a changeling and then psych us out.
Yeah.
Also, they don't have to do like a whole blood drop special effect. They can just save the time and move on by showing her do this quick cut.
Yeah.
Kind of like when the Klingons do their blood oath and we just see a quick cut. We don't see, piles of blood going everywhere.
Yeah,
Even though the Klingons would probably proudly wave their hands and bathe in it.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's probably just so you could, get on with it so Rogue could go and sacrifice herself. Which leads to the question, why the captain of the Intrepid assumed a malfunctioning shuttle would be a deliberate attack and not an accident. Like, they didn't even ask the Titan what happened.
I thought about this too. The only answer that I came up with is that sorry, I lost my train of thought. I'm having a bad day.
The only thing I came up with is that it's the entire command crew of the Intrepid is already compromised. And
That's
it's just
right.
purposeful. They're going after the Titan.
Just like Riker said too, like Riker said right away, don't you see it? We're being framed. Like, to me, that said right there exactly why they didn't question it, because that's what they wanted. It fit with what if you're going to frame somebody, you're not going to do any more than you got to do. You're not going to say anything.
I remembered.
Okay.
A thought of mine, why they turned so quickly, is because the point of Rogue coming over was to come back with either Picard and Riker or Jack.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And when it was clear by the two changelings who showed up in her shuttle, she had neither. And so she blows herself up, and they go, well, we now know those bad people are on the ship, and they're the reason everything's going wrong.
Great shot.
So we're going to attack them.
Mm-hmm.
That was the only other reason I could think of to why they didn't say, hey, what happened? Who was on board? What was the situation? They just raise shields and start warming up the photons.
Right.
Part of what bothered me was something Rose said too when she was talking about Jack, and Picard kept asking her, like, why are you so obsessed with my son type idea? Like that he's only known for a couple days. When Rose mentions that she's seen his name come up multiple times with multiple people. And I'm like, how is it everybody seemed to know about Jacksident except for the guy who provided half of the DNA?
Right.
Like, seriously, how does everybody know this?
Well, I mean, she is Starfleet intelligence, and he seems to work on the edges of morality, if not the edges of the Federation. So I'm probably keeping an eye on him, even if he's basically Doctors Without Borders and doing a public service.
But that could be a cover for a number of things.
Exactly. They don't know.
It just bothered me when she said that, because I'm like, how is it everybody knows, but he didn't know? Like, you would think being an admiral, he would still be getting the odd briefing here or there and stuff like that. You would think at some point somebody would have leaked something and he would have heard something that would have said, hey, dude, you porked Beverly and fathered a kid. Like, I don't know.
Unless it's not true.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're clearly, because he's clearly got something going on, yeah.
Also, if Starfleet is compromised, then they don't want Picard to find out about it at all. So the fact that he's here doing all this with Jack makes it even more significant that they frame the ship and make him look like imposters, yada yada. So I guess that's the end of my thought there, but I still just had that in the moment. It's like, yeah, if Starfleet's compromised, of course he doesn't know about his kid. Of course he doesn't know what Beverly and his kid are doing.
Conspiracy. Right. Jack is some kind of weird holy grail.
Jesus is looking for him, or the Knights Templar?
No, I've just been like a lot of shows lately I've been watching that have conspiracies in them. They're often looking for a so-called holy grail, which is sometimes a person, an object, or a thing. Right. That's the crux of the problem, yet the solution, kind of like Harry Potter.
I just want to cross over with Monty Python.
Maybe he's a chosen one like Harry Potter.
Well, I was talking about Neo. I mean, not that dissimilar.
Yeah, but Neo is a good guy. Jacksident is kind of a dick.
Yeah,
ambiguous.
He has those changelings, so
he's a dark gray for me.
Well, everyone in this
Address
show
the
is dark
elephant
gray.
in the room here with the Titan and the shuttle. What do we think about killing Ro? Because I feel like this is just another Icheb moment.
50-50 because we know Michelle Forbes was always a will she won't they with the show. So I think what you said earlier about maybe the actress said, you know what, I'll come back, I'll do the character, but write me out, sort of like Harrison Ford did with Star Wars. He said, I'll come back, I'll do one more movie, you kill me off because I'm done. And I think that's what she wanted, was just kind of like give my character an ending that's worthy of her, which Ro would do something like that. That is definitely a Ro move. So I think that's what she said is, you know, I'll come back, just kill me off. I don't want to be in the show anymore. Like, write me out.
I guess Harrison Ford needed a better agent then, because he wanted to be out of Star Wars at like Empire. Like he wanted Han Solo to be dead, not frozen in carbonite.
Yeah.
Harrison Ford, that guy is so weak about certain roles. He's coming back for another Indiana Jones movie. Oh my God.
I know.
What's he doing?
Yeah, I don't get that, because even like half of the reason Robert Downey Jr. is quitting Iron Man is because, like he said, it doesn't make sense to have a 60-year-old guy in a suit beating up bad guys.
I think another Ant-Man. Yeah.
I mean, unless he's gonna like go face of Bo or something and just age forever.
I wonder who's healthier now, Robert Downey Jr. or Harrison Ford. I imagine Harrison Ford.
I don't know. That guy looks like death warmed over.
And they're letting him fly planes.
Yeah.
Do you think Harrison Ford has ever worn a cat suit?
Like in private, you know, he's that kind of guy.
You know
I'm
what? I put my money on somebody in this room other than me having worn a cat suit before I'd put my money on him having worn one. Well, other than me and Dell, because me and Dell are just like that. I put my money on one of the 3 other guys in this room wearing a cat suit first.
No comment.
I love the fact that Scott's looking shifty there for a second.
Yeah. All right. Okay, let's bring it back to like the only big thing left. On a scale of 1 to 10, how big a bag of dicks is Shaw this week?
I liked him this week.
Whistling in the turbo left was
I
He's 9. 9.
Yeah,
I love
I still like him.
he's all the dicks this week.
I really liked him complimenting Jack.
Nice
The kind
shooting.
of like the stunned like look on his face when he set it up at him, like yeah, like that felt powerful coming from this guy who's just been a demeaning bag of dicks.
Oh my gosh. It's like he got command back and he's just like back to normal. Like whatever's been going on when like he had his moment in the holodeck last episode and, you know, was being all willing to help. And that was just, I don't know, a facade or whatever. Like this episode, he's got his power back. He reinstates Seven and talking about how he thinks Picard and Riker are going to be court-martialed, and he's talking about how he's chipper. He was not chipper. He was positively giddy. I think he would have been tapped in that turbo.
Yeah, he did say it wasn't because they were being court-martialed. It just, he felt that way and I mean, when you saw the way he gave Seven her commission back, he just kind of waved his hand silly, kind of like the queen granting a knighthood.
Yeah.
Like, I have to admit, I loved his sarcasm and his attitude this time. Like when he was laughing, like whistling in the turbo lift, I'm like, yeah, that's Shaw. But I had to ask this, for a smart guy, why is he so slow on the uptake at the end? Because he's not stupid.
Nope.
I mean, Shaw is not stupid. How is
I think he doesn't handle shock well.
Robbie?
Yeah.
Can you hear me?
I think he just doesn't have the practical experience.
Okay.
I mean, my only thought was maybe, and this is going back to first season, sheer fucking hubris was his pride. But otherwise, I'm like, but he's a smart guy. Like, even Riker tells him, if you don't trust us, trust your own damn eyes. Like,
yeah.
I mean, Shaw's pretty by the book, so maybe that's why. But I don't know.
He was like way too happy that they were going to be punished for like upsetting his calm, ordered life, which is weird that you would have a calm, ordered life as the captain of a starship. But okay.
No brave new worlds for this guy, okay?
Yeah,
Just
what has he
old
been doing
worlds.
for the past 5 years?
Yeah, that's kind of what I've been wondering too. He's
Going back and forth between star bases. That was his job. He never encountered anything fun. He never had to do anything crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Back out to Starbase 80 and back.
I have to.
Damn, Starbase 80?
Pretty much.
I have to wonder if maybe
Place is the
we know he was involved at Wolf 359, and that's why he's kind of messed in the head. I wonder if maybe he was put out to pasture like Cisco.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, Cisco was put out to pasture, and he was never supposed to do anything but babysit Bajor and try and get them in the Federation. He wasn't supposed to become Space Jesus and fight a war.
Right?
So I have to wonder if maybe Shaw is what Cisco might have become had he never been Space Jesus and fought a war.
Yeah. Shaw understood the assignment.
Shaw didn't go looking for anything either. He was just happy to order people around and
eat blue steak.
I have a non-Shaw related question that's been like crawling up the back of my head.
Okay.
Why did Ro bring Worf in for this particular investigation? Because he claims not to be Starfleet intelligence, but a subcontractor, which I always read as I'm doing this as a favor to someone. But even if that's not the case, why did Ro choose Worf of all the people she could have chose?
There's similarities between them. They were both outcasts. They were both orphans. They both had a difficult early life. She grew up in a Bajoran camp. That was established. Worf lived through the Khitomer massacre, so there was that. And when you think about it, at the same level, they're both warriors. And they both believe in a certain code of honor that doesn't always mesh with Starfleet. Mm-hmm. Because we saw more on Deep Space Nine. There was more than once where Cisco's like, I have allowed you so much leeway for your Klingonness, but I'm not going to give you any more. You are Starfleet. So I have to wonder if it's the similarities between them.
Yeah.
Because they do have a lot of similarities.
Do you guys think that Ro can stop her own heartbeat the way Worf could?
Probably not.
That was pretty cool.
I'm a little 50-50 on it, but it kind of was fun to see him get up after he pretended to be dead.
I mean, maybe.
I'll be honest, though, that seems more Vulcan than Klingon to be able to do something like that.
Sure, he's gone beyond Klingon at this point.
Well, when he said it was a Kalis technique, that stood out to me. Kalis is going to sit and meditate, it seemed. I've been saying that Worf sounds more and more Vulcan in this particular series, and that didn't disprove my thought.
Yeah, he's not gone to Har Master, that's for sure.
No.
Yeah.
Although I have to wonder if maybe some of that is still tying back to how bad he took Jadzia's death. Like that. Considering, how close those two were, I still think maybe that affected him, and that's what's, caused him to, maybe be less rage machine. I don't know.
Right.
I mean, it's nice to see something other than it's nice to see him as something other than a bag of rage.
Yeah.
So back in the turbo lift, he name drops a whole bunch of things that happened with the crew of the D. And also what happened in the Devron system in the last episode of TNG. But didn't that only happen to Picard? How does he know about that?
That's a fair point.
Because at the end, I'm pretty sure, I'd have to go back and watch, but I'm pretty sure at the end, Picard even says, we scanned the Devron system, there's nothing there right now, and it just he was the only one to experience it, so why does Shaw know?
The trial never ends.
Oh.
Or Shaw is Q.
Oh my gosh, if they did
There's
that.
a nice rabbit
hole. That's a conspiracy for you.
Dustin, that's worthy of me, and I didn't come up with it.
I gotta say, I'm proud of you, Dustin. That's a really good one.
Yeah.
That would
2 points.
That would help explain Shaw's very petulant attitude.
It might.
I like the way Picard and Riker reacted to it as they're leaving the turbo lift, and they're like, "Good times." Like,
I actually asked the question if we had extra time, but then we had a bajillion questions, which is like, what story in your life would you turn to someone and say, those were good times?
nothing I can repeat on here.
Yeah.
I got nothing.
I was just thinking it would be like, if we had more time
Leave the
we needed to kill. But
I do have one question that I put in because this was something that was driving me nuts. Betazoids can detect changelings. We know that because of Loaxana and Odo. Betazoids know changelings when they come across them. So with this new evolution, could Betazoids still pick up on them? Because there's certain species like Ferengi where they can't read them, but it is known that they can detect changelings. So could this evolution hide them from Betazoids?
be interesting to see if Troy shows up, what would happen.
Yeah.
And could that be why Deanna hasn't been brought back yet?
Maybe.
To keep her from noticing? I mean, she's not exactly the most perspective. She might just feel something. She could sense something, but I have to wonder because
it could be one diagnostic tool among several diagnostic tools that they develop. It wasn't like they just had the blood screening in DS9. They also did like the phaser sweeps and all kinds of other stuff. And A, I think we're going to see more of that happening. But B, I also think that like any tool that can help with this situation is going to be used.
Okay.
But yeah, I had to ask that one because it was driving me nuts because I'm like, we know that. So would that change it? Because they were talking about all the different ways that they've changed. Like now they have blood, but no DNA. And, you know, until Beverly was like deep inside the guts, it didn't start reverting.
Yeah, I had a question about that too. Can they only do that with humans, or do they have like an encyclopedic knowledge of alien physiology? Like, can they become an Andorian and have Andorian guts and Andorian blood, or is it just humans?
I've often thought their combined knowledge is similar to the Borg because of their great link. Like what one of them knows, they all know once they link. So if you had one, and they did send 100 of them out into the galaxy to learn about other species. So it is possible somebody could come back with knowledge of Andorians and have shared that with them.
But I also noticed that I don't think we've seen a changeling be anything but a human or a changeling on this season.
Maybe human is the easiest to replicate.
I'm just wondering if it's like because they can do the organs, so therefore it's easier or like going to be better suited for what they're trying to do than just turning into goo.
Right.
It's easier to do for the costume designer.
We did have Martok. Or was it Martok? No, Gowron. Gowron was a changeling. So we know they can replicate other species accurately. So
that was before we were talking about blood, internal organs, livers, double penises, like whatever it is. Do they know all of that? And how did they gather all of that? And if YouTube is a problem with the word penis, it's scientific, so get over it.
Jesus Christ, guys, we can say basically anything we want. It's fine.
After a certain
don't hold
point,
back. You know, just don't use it every other sentence. That's it.
Right.
But trust me, if somebody started using it every other sentence, I'd be asking, what did you smoke with breakfast? I don't know. Like, I still think, like I say, that their knowledge is collective, like the Borg. If they've encountered it and studied it, because that's what they were doing, then it would make sense that if one has it, once they link, they all have it.
Mm-hmm.
But here's a weird thought, too. If some of these are like, because I've seen speculation that this is somehow connected to Las. I think that's how you say his name.
Yep.
But here's the catch with Las. He linked with Odo when Odo didn't have the cure for the disease yet. So if Las went back and linked with other changelings he found, they would have that weird mutagenic virus, but not the cure because Odo had to go back to the link to share the cure to cure the link. So could we, there's another rabbit hole. Could we see that virus come back and maybe.
Because that's a Section 31 plot, so it could.
And here's the thing, maybe they took that mutagenic virus and they used it to help themselves evolve. It was a virus that made Klingons have no ridges. So
Oh my gosh.
I don't know how we got those weird spider-looking Klingons that look like Cardassians with spider collars. That part doesn't make sense, but okay, there's my other rabbit hole. What if that mutagenic virus, because it's still out there, was somehow what they used to do this?
Yeah, why not?
Yeah, at this point, I mean, it could be anything.
Yeah, right.
I never thought
If there's one thing this show is good at, it's creating questions that may or may not answer.
Mm-hmm.
It's funny because this show's becoming more Deep Space Nine than TNG, really. Like
Yeah.
all the conspiracies
True.
and the corruption and the.
I'm kind of grateful for it on that level, honestly.
Well, because I think TNG still had that utopian, really bright lit, like really sort of explored.
Look at us, we're so great.
Right. But then they missed out on all of the serial storytelling, although they're not being quite as serial, but they missed out on the serial storytelling. They missed on the darker tones. They missed on, I would say, the majority of not being able to trust Starfleet as much as we've seen in the later shows. And so I feel like it could just be like TNG getting theirs.
Right.
Like this is our version of modern TNG.
I got one other question. When he mentioned going to Admiral Janeway, and Rose said, I've tried, but I can't get past the gatekeepers. Do you think Janeway knows she's being gatekept, or is Janeway herself corrupt?
No.
I don't think she's showing up in the series, so it's going to be in either an open question or something solved in dialogue.
Because that part's driving me nuts. Like, you know, is she maybe
a throwaway line?
I don't know. Something about that was just weird to me because I'm like, maybe she doesn't know that she's being kept from knowing.
Right.
I have a crazier question. Why are they bringing the entire fleet to Frontier Day? Are we talking no patrols, no one watching the neutral zone, no one watching the wormhole, no one watching like all of these ports of entry that could cause serious damage? No, we're all going to get together and have a big backyard barbecue.
I think they're going to leave us. I think they're leaving more of a skeleton crew. Like,
yeah.
That's not what was implied at all from my point of view. It was implied that everyone was going to be there.
Ro did kind of put it that way, yeah.
Everyone that's everyone.
That's what I thought was like.
Picard's
everyone who matters. I mean, people like the Cerritos can just go screw off and babysit the wormhole for a day. Because nobody wants them around. They just screw it up.
It just sounds like, I mean, it just sounds so effing implausible.
Not really, because, I mean, it does fit with the whole Federation patting itself on the back for being so wonderful and great and everything else. Like Picard even says, you know, like the way he says it, it comes across like it's them patting themselves on the back. Like, look at how wonderful we are. Like,
smells like trout to me.
You know what I could see, though? I feel like, I don't know, we don't know who's in charge at this point, the Changelings or Moriarty or whoever, but I could totally see them disrupting Frontier Day by using that portal weapon somehow on Starbase 1. It all seems to be centered around Starbase 1. Like at the ending credits, you see this shot of like a bunch of starships, you know, swirling around it. I kind of feel like that's indicative of Frontier Day.
Yeah, I think you're right, Scott. I think that's right on the money.
It's going to be great. Everybody's going to be there, and we're going to, I don't know, put them through a portal somewhere.
Hey, maybe Lore created the new changelings. We know he experimented on Borg and how well that worked.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe Lore developed his technique further, and he's the one who's behind the changelings. I just thought of that.
Yeah.
Borg
or weird
changelings controlled by Lore.
Or even weirder, a Lore and Moriarty team up because they were both at Daystrom. I either want to see a Lore and Moriarty team up or them come to a showdown with each other, because to me, the idea that Moriarty could beat Data means he could beat Lore. And I want to see the outcome of that.
I think that's the whole setup. It's just that the two of them, one is going to have to nuke the other in order for, or they nuke each other.
Yeah, I have to see that. If I do not see that in this season, I'm going to be so disappointed, because to me, that would totally tie that up.
Right.
If it happens, can you take a book and throw it out the window with an actual noise behind it?
I can arrange that.
All right.
I can totally arrange that.
Not for Foley from now on.
Especially since we are, let me just put this out there for the viewers. Next week and for the next month, we are going to try a different streaming service. We're going to get rid of this stupid free StreamYard thing up in our corner. We're going to try a different one. And yeah, actually one of the things we get out of it is a bank of sound effects. We can like put in our own sound effects and stuff easily.
Oh, right on.
Right.
We're going to try some stuff. May or may not work. Bear with us for a bit.
All right.
I'm still trying stuff every week, so
We promise better lighting than Picard.
Okay, I have one more
I don't
detail.
know if I can keep that promise.
Okay. I have one more detail. It's a very small thing, and I might actually be remembering it wrong, but please bear with me. So the episode started with Jack having a vision, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like he comes up onto to the bridge and kills everybody. But correct me if I'm wrong. That vision started with, Crash LaForge at the helm doing whatever. And then she and then the thing opens up behind her and Jack walks in. And even though it's blurry, you can tell it's Jack from the way he walked in. Like I could tell immediately. This was Jack's vision. Was her hair different? And if so, why? Because I swear it was like after everything had finished, I was like, so Forge went and got her hair done before she went back on duty? What?
I didn't notice it, but I'll go back and look.
Yeah, I didn't notice it either.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe it was just.
But I'll go back and
it was
look.
a different scene for all I know. It just seemed very odd because I could tell her hairstyle was different. And it's like if Jack is imagining that, what does it mean?
Maybe it's along the same lines as the changing pips.
Yeah,
Is
I
it
think it just
indicative of another reality?
Shifting realities.
Yeah.
This is like when Worf he goes from one to the other and he doesn't know what's what.
I freaking love that episode. Parallels is one of my favorites.
I actually have to say we got some good nicknames this time around. I mean, Jacksident and Ensign Shifty.
Yeah.
Bag of dicks.
Captain Bag of Dicks.
Although I will say, to be fair to
Someone out there in YouTube land, please make a cartoon strip of Captain Bag of Dicks. It needs to be like a 4-panel strip. I don't know why, but
I will be honest. There's a couple of Star Trek groups I belong to, and the actor who plays Captain Shaw is in those groups. And from what I've seen with him interacting with fans, he's actually a pretty nice guy. He's one of those guys that he's just really good at. He's like a Kai Wynn of captains.
Nice.
You love to just hate the character. But I wanted to throw that out there. I've seen him interacting a little bit with fans and answering questions, and he seems like he's actually really nice, which doesn't surprise me because it's always really nice actors who play these characters we hate. And so that to me, he's kind of like Captain Kai Wynn. But in this case, I don't ascribe to him all the manipulation and dirty dealing that Kai Wynn did, unless he happens to be a Q, in which case then everything he does is suspect.
Or a changeling.
Yeah. I don't think he's a changeling.
I don't think so either, but at this point with Kill and Row, Picard could be a woman for all I know. I didn't expect her to show up, and I didn't expect her to depart. So who knows?
You just made me think of one thing that when I was watching Enterprise the first time when it was on the air, and of course I grew up watching Quantum Leap because my mom always had it on because she loved it. And for me, I always thought they missed out on not having Captain Archer appear as a woman at some point, because I remember so many Quantum Leaps where he's like, not a woman again. And he just made me think of that. Now I'm trying to imagine Picard as a woman, and it's he'd make one.
It would be like his evil Frenchman, but worse.
Hopefully better looking.
Oh yeah. He got to an episode. I just realized he got to an episode 5 in one of his seasons without having to go undercover.
Yeah.
Only took 3 seasons. All right. Do we got any more questions?
No.
I think somehow we actually managed to get through all of this. So.
I think we got to go out of 10.
Yes. How do we rank the episode out of 10?
Do I go first?
Please. I'm not entirely sure yet. So.
I'm not entirely certain. It was a good episode, but I didn't like it. And I don't know where that leaves me. So I'm going to give it like a 6. It wasn't terrible, but it wasn't great.
I'm going to go with a 7 because for me, there was some serious high points. Like, I actually liked Captain Shaw in this one. I liked him being his Shawness. I liked all that. And I like the fact that this opened up so many delicious rabbit holes and potential conspiracies and weird things to explore. Although I think at the end, I'm going to probably be disappointed. And
there's only 5 episodes left.
I know, but there's a lot of things too that disappoint me. The fact that Picard is still very inflexible, the fact that Beverly has obviously got some major things she's hiding from everyone, which doesn't actually fit with Beverly because she was always pretty open. I'd expect this more of Pulaski, not her. Seeing Ro Laren back was nice because I never liked her on the show, so seeing her back is kind of nice because I still don't like her, but I don't like her in a good way. And I like at least that they gave her a reasonable death. Kind of like when Samuel L. Jackson said, "You're not going to have me shot in the back by some droid in Star Wars." That's what I thought of. I'm like, good. They didn't have her shot in the back by some like ensign. Like she went out with a bang. But for me, yeah, it's a 7. I can't give it more. And even the 7's kind of being generous.
I'm on the other side of this one from Dell. Like, I like this one, but I don't know why, and I'm finding it hard to put a number to. All I know is that 2 points come right off the top for killing Ro. She's one of my favorite characters. You brought her back, you killed her for really no good reason. Somewhere around a 6.5 or a 7, I guess. But I generally like this one, and I'm not quite sure why. Go ahead, Robbie.
I'm going to give it a 7, and that's only because I think the writing is a certain intelligence. Like, I think we'll see the traits of certain intelligence, but I don't think it's really, I don't think it's focused in the way it should be. It feels a little sloppy, especially with some of the action scenes. Killing Ro feels sudden, and it also, like, we were talking about the contractual issues with it earlier, and that's probably the main reason why that death happened so quick. I wasn't even particularly attached to Ro, but I did enjoy the scenes they had together. Yeah, I think it's okay. I don't think it's anything more than standard. A lot of the writing keeps it being anything more than standard. There seems like some cheap tricks, and I think it appeals to me on a base level, but I can't say I think it's a masterpiece within Star Trek history. A 7 is the best I can give it if I'm being objective.
That's fair. Yeah, I would say I do like this episode. Not quite as much as last week. Yeah, I did enjoy what was going on between Ro and Picard. Whether or not I hate Shaw as a character, I did like seeing him back in form, as it were. I feel like everything is progressing really well. I was actually worrying about like how far into the season we were going to get before we found out like what's going on. So it's nice to know that like it's at the halfway point and they have so much time to resolve it. I enjoyed seeing Rafi and Worf again. It was nice that the entire episode wasn't devoted to the Titan. But yeah, since it wasn't quite as good as the last episode, I'd probably drop it down from a 9 to like an 8.5. Yeah. Last week I gave the last one a 9, which was like way higher than everybody else's here.
This week we're mostly on the same page. It seems we're all kind of like, we don't really know what to do with it in the end.
Yeah.
Well, this thing makes the same mistake a lot of pulp-oriented media does. It gives us too many questions, and in the end, we're probably not going to get enough answers to be satisfied with the overall story.
That's fair.
Right. I believe that, yeah. Okay, but that being said, I'd like to thank everybody for joining us today to talk about the episode. If you liked what you saw, to do with the usual YouTube stuff, like the video, comment on it, please share it around. Subscribe to Dustin's channel. Absolutely. This is a great channel and I love checking out his stuff as well as participating.
Thank you.
And hopefully be here next week when we discuss next week's episode. But if there's nothing else, I think until then, well, live long and prosper.